The Yorubas say there are two ways to get rich. One takes time, sweat, and sacrifice, while the other takes something else entirely. Tobi chose the second path, and for a while it worked. The cars, the money, the girls, the respect. But one thing about deals made in darkness, the darkness always comes to collect. And when it came for Tobi, no amount of money could save him. Abeokuta, the city beneath the rock, Olumo stands tall, proud, ancient, watching over every son and daughter born under its shadow. This city has seen warriors, has seen kings, has seen men rise and fall like the Hamatan sun. But what it saw with Tobi, even the rock itself could not have predicted. Tobi Adewale grew up in Lafenwa, one of the busiest, most unforgiving parts of Abeokuta. If you know, you know. Traders shouting, motorcycles weaving, the smell of akara frying before 6 a.m. His mother, Mama Tobi, a petty trader who sold provisions from a small wooden stall, raised him alone. His father had left when Tobi was just 4 years old. No goodbye, no explanation, just an empty chair at the dinner table that Tobi stared at every morning before school. They were not the poorest family in the neighborhood, but they were not far from it. Mama Tobi worked from sunrise to past sunset. She would tie her wrapper tight around her waist, load her tray, and pray before she stepped out every single morning. Tobi, whatever you do in this life, do it with clean hands, she would say. Tobi would nod. He always nodded. But nodding and obeying are two very different things. When Tobi gained admission into one of the state universities in Ogun State, Mama Tobi wept tears of joy. Her only son, her pride, the one she had sacrificed everything for. She sold a plot of land, the only property her late father had left her, just to pay his first-year school fees and hostel accommodation. She packed his bag herself, prayed over his shoes, sewed a small piece of paper with a Bible verse into the lining of his suitcase. God will keep you, my son. Tobi entered campus a boy with big dreams and an almost empty pocket. He watched his coursemate arrive in their parents' cars, Camrys, Corollas. One boy even came in a Lexus SUV. He watched them pull out phones he could only dream of. He watched girls gravitate toward the boys with money like moths to a flame. And something shifted inside him. Not immediately, not dramatically, just a small, quiet shift, like a door opening just a crack in a room that should have stayed locked. By his second semester, Tobi became friends with a boy called Segun. Segun was from Sagamu, always had money, never seemed to work for it, always calm, always smiling that particular kind of smile, the smile of someone who knows something you don't. One night, after they had eaten pepper soup together at a Buccaneer campus, Segun leaned in close and said, "Tobi, you be correct guy. You too fine to be suffering. I fit show you something, but you must promise me you are ready." Tobi should have stood up and walked away. He didn't. He said, "Show me." What Segun showed him wasn't dramatic at first. That is the trick. It never is. He took Tobi to an old man who lived on the outskirts of Abeokuta, deep in a compound that smelled of herbs and something older than herbs. The man spoke little. He gave Tobi a small wrapped package, native soap and a black concoction sealed in a bottle. The instructions were simple. Bathe with the soap before any business transaction. Drink a small amount of the concoction on Mondays. The old man looked at Tobi with eyes that had seen too much and said only this: "It will work, but it will want more. They always want more." Tobi laughed it off. He thought the man was being dramatic. Within 3 weeks, Tobi had made more money than his mother made in 6 months. A small buying and selling business he had been struggling with for a year suddenly exploded. Customers appeared from nowhere, deals closed themselves, money flowed like water during rainy season. He bought himself a new phone, then new clothes, then he moved into a better hostel. And he went back to the old man. "I want more," Tobi said. The old man nodded slowly, like he had been expecting those exact words. Then you must do more. The requests escalated gradually, the way all dangerous things do. So slowly you don't notice how deep the water has gotten until you're already drowning. First, it was animals. A white hen, a tortoise, items buried at crossroads at midnight. Then it was the concoctions, strange things Tobi could not identify that he was asked to eat on certain nights that left a metallic taste in his mouth and strange dreams in his sleep. Dreams where something dark stood at the foot of his bed, watching him. Not threatening, just watching, waiting. But by his third year, Tobi was rich. Not comfortable rich, rich, rich. He had a car on campus, one of only a handful of students who did. He wore designers. He moved with a kind of confidence that money manufactures. And the girls? The girls came without him even trying. Pretty girls, smart girls, girls from good families, girls who should have known better but were dazzled by the lifestyle. Here is where the story becomes harder to tell. The old man had told him what the next level required. The spirit needs exchange. Emmy for Emmy, life force for life force. You must use a woman, not hurt her physically, but take from her spiritually. Her glory, her destiny, her animo. You bring her close, you spend time, and it happens automatically. She won't know, you won't see it happen, but it will happen. Tobi told himself it wasn't that serious, that the girls would be fine, that he was just living his life, dating normally. But somewhere inside him, in a place he refused to visit, he knew what he was doing. He dated girl after girl after girl. Each relationship lasted a few months at most. He would pursue them intensely, wine and dine them, make them feel chosen, make them feel special. And then, without warning, he would disappear, block them, move on to the next. The girls he left behind were never quite the same afterward. Not physically sick, but dull, like something had been taken from them that they couldn't name. Their academics suffered, their confidence shrank. Some of them transferred schools. One girl, a beautiful 300-level economics student named Sade, dropped out entirely. Tobi heard about Sade and felt nothing. That frightened him more than anything else. Not the rituals, not the strange dreams, the fact that he felt nothing. He was changing, and he knew it, and he kept going. By his final year, Tobi was one of the most recognizable students on campus. Wealth had made him a kind of celebrity. People pointed at him. Younger students wanted to be him. He sat in class, when he bothered to attend, like a king tolerating the company of peasants. But behind the sunglasses and the designer shirts, something was wrong. The dreams had gotten worse. The thing that stood at the foot of his bed had moved closer. It spoke now, not in any language he recognized, but he understood it the way you understand things in dreams. And then came the night everything changed. He went to see the old man. The compound felt different. The air was thicker. The old man sat in the dark and did not offer him a seat. The spirit is not satisfied, Tobi said. Then what does it want? I've done everything. It wants someone from your blood, a female from your family. The world went quiet. What? Tobi said. You heard me, Tobi. I don't have sisters. I'm an only child. The old man looked at him, and Tobi's stomach dropped to the floor. My mother. Silence. You're joking, Tobi whispered. Do I look like a man who jokes? I can't. She's my mother. She's done nothing wrong. His voice cracked, and for the first time in years, something human flickered inside him. She sacrificed everything for me. The old man's voice was flat as a grave. You have 30 days. If you do not bring something of hers, something personal, one close to her body, the spirit will turn on you. And what it does to those who break the covenant, Tobi, you do not want to see. 30 days. Tobi drove back to campus in his car and sat in the parking lot until 3 a.m. He did not go inside. He just sat, gripping the steering wheel. He thought about Mama Tobi, the woman who sold provisions in the sun so he could have school fees, the woman who prayed over his shoes, the woman who still called him every Sunday morning, every single Sunday without fail, to pray with him on the phone, even when he had stopped believing in anything worth praying to. He thought about what the spirit would do to her. He thought about what the spirit would do to him if he refused. For 3 weeks, he refused. He slept with the lights on. He lost weight. The figure in his dreams was no longer at the foot of his bed. It was beside him, breathing. In the 4th week, a car nearly killed him. Out of nowhere. He swore it came from nowhere. His car was totaled. He walked out without a scratch, but the message was clear. Time was running out. In desperation, the kind of desperation that strips a man of everything good inside him, Tobi went home to Abeokuta on the pretense of a visit. Mama Tobi was overjoyed to see her son. She cooked her favorite food. She laughed. She held his face in her hands and said he looked thin and that she would fatten him up before he went back to school. He could barely look her in the eyes. That night, while she slept, he crept into her room. Her headscarf, the one she wore every night for prayer, the one soaked in her prayers and her faith and her tears, lay on her bedside table. He took it. He drove back to the old man that same night. He handed it over. And he drove away telling himself he had no choice, telling himself she would be fine, telling himself. His phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer. He answered. What the old man and Tobi had not accounted for was this. Mama Tobi was not an ordinary woman. She had been a prayer warrior for over 20 years, a frontliner in her Pentecostal church, a woman who fasted twice a week, a woman who had, through sheer spiritual force, held her household together as a single mother in one of the toughest cities in Nigeria. When the arrow was sent, when whatever dark thing was released into the spiritual atmosphere moved toward her, it did not find a soft target. It found a wall of fire. The old man, watching from his compound, saw it before Tobi did. He scrambled backward because what the spirit brought back was not her energy, not her glory. It came back carrying everything it had left with, and it went straight back to the source. The phone call Tobi was on disconnected, and then Tobi started screaming. Not in fear, not in pain, in confusion. Because suddenly, nothing made sense. The road looked wrong. The sky was the wrong color. The people outside the car were moving too fast or too slow, and they were saying things that weren't words, and he had to get out. He had to get out now. He stumbled from his car in the middle of the road. By the time passers-by reached him, Tobi Adewale, the campus millionaire, the big boy of Abeokuta, the young man who had everything, was sitting on the ground in the middle of the expressway, pulling at his own clothes, laughing and weeping at the same time. He did not recognize his own name when they said it. When Mama Tobi got the call, she came immediately. She did not know what had happened. She could not have known. But when she knelt beside her son on that dusty road and held his face in her hands, the same way she had held it just hours before in her kitchen, and his eyes looked through her like she was made of glass, she knew. Mothers always know. She did not curse him. She did not run. She began to pray. There are things this story should teach us, and I won't pretend you haven't already learnt them. But let me say them out loud anyway, because sometimes we need to hear what we already know. Money that has a face is a gift. Money that has a price is a trap. Tobi grew up watching his mother work and thought poverty was the enemy. He was wrong. The enemy was the belief that there was a shortcut, that he could have the destination without the journey, that he could take from others without consequence, that the darkness would be satisfied with what he was willing to give rather than what it had always planned to take. The darkness is never satisfied, and it always targets what you love most. Mama Tobi's story did not end that day on the road. She spent years in prayer and fasting, fighting for her son's restoration. Whether Tobi came back fully, I leave for you to sit with, because that is the real question this story asks. After everything, can a person come back from that far? I believe in grace, but grace is not cheap, and some prices once paid take a very long time to recover from. If this story moved you, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're out there right now looking for a shortcut, I hope Tobi's story makes you think twice. Subscribe for more Nigerian stories that make you think.